welcome to another video. Today I'd like to share about an article from Mashable that I read recently where they talk about the reading habits of Southeast Asians during the lockdown. So it seems that apart from learning how to bake banana bread or making dalgona coffee, reading was one of the chosen activities during the lockdown. In Vietnam, they saw an increase of 3,000% in new readers, while here in Singapore, there was 1,700% increase of new readers. This also coincides with a recent article that the National Library Board shared recently in terms of the surge of checkouts of ebooks during the lockdown. So, with this in mind, I think this is a great opportunity to share some new titles and new genres for all those new readers and casual readers out there who want to expand more into their reading experience. So, without further ado, let's begin. My first recommendation is genre fiction, particularly sci-fi. I think sci-fi is a good way to transition from readers who are more used to watching films or TV shows and recreate the same type of experience with their reading. Sci-fi tends to be fast-paced and also easily accessible. I have two recommendations under the genre of fiction. My first recommendation for sci-fi is Ernest Cline's Ready Player One. In this dystopian novel, the world suffers from a global crisis and humanity will be forced to escape into a virtual universe called the Oasis. However, the maker of the Oasis is dying and will then create a game that will allow him to find a worthy successor to the Oasis leadership. And so we follow our young hero Wade Watts as he finds and tries to solve all the Easter eggs that will eventually lead him into winning the game and the leadership of the Oasis. I think this is a great novel, especially for casual readers. It's so fast-paced. Each chapter ends with a cliffhanger that will make you want to keep going. My next recommendation is a classic sci-fi novel by Jules Verne called Journey to the Center of the Earth. In this novel, we follow an intrepid professor and his nephew as they embark on this crazy adventure to travel to the Earth's core, and while there, they discover this lost world. I think there's a lot of misconception in terms of classics in that they are dry and boring, but actually this is one of the funniest sci-fi adventure novels I've ever read, and it's a great one for casual readers to enjoy. My next recommendation may not come as a surprise for most of you here, as I've talked about this book quite a lot here on Bookstagram, and it is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. In this charming novel, we follow Count Rostov, who's a former aristocrat but has been sentenced to a lifelong house arrest in the Grand Metropole Hotel in Moscow. This novel reminds me of an old Hollywood film. It is filled with a lot of vivid descriptions of the luxurious surroundings of the Metropole Hotel, some of the luscious food that's being served at the Boyarsky, and it's also filled with a lot of charming characters. It is hard not to get engaged and absorbed in this charming novel because of the vivid descriptions that will definitely transform you. It almost feels like you can taste, feel, and see everything that's described in this book. On top of that, it's also filled with lots of charming characters, with the Count in the center of it, who's witty and funny, but most of all, he's kind and generous. I think a lot of people love this book. I don't know anyone I've recommended this book to that didn't love it. So I think this is a good one for casual readers. My next recommendation are short stories. I think short stories is a good gateway for new readers or casual readers who might be intimidated with the length or the commitment that is required in reading a longer novel. And for that, I would recommend Ken Liu's The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories. This is a great collection from Ken Liu. It's one of the best that I've read so far, and I think Ken Liu has a gift in terms of allowing both sci-fi and mythology to coexist in a seamless way. The overarching theme in this collection of novels is finding one's identity, and that ultimately it's the stories that we pass on from generation to generation that connects us to our culture and to our own humanity. And finally, another genre fiction, this time thriller. For this, I would recommend Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. This is a novel that's well loved here on Bookstagram, and for good reason. This is a story of a young woman who falls in love with a stranger that she will meet while on holiday in Monte Carlo. They will have a whirlwind courtship that will end up with them married and living in a country estate called Manderley in England. But not everything as it seems, because the ghost of Maxim de Winter's dead first wife will cast a shadow over their marriage. This is a gothic thriller. It's so atmospheric and it's truly absorbing. Daphne du Maurier was actually inspired by an earlier novel by Elizabeth von Arnim called Vera. The structure of the two novels are very similar, but while Rebecca's strength is in the atmospheric setting, Elizabeth von Arnim was more interested in digging deeper behind the psychology of the abuser and the abused. Just like Rebecca though, this novel is so well written and very absorbing, and it's hard to put down. And that's it. Those are my recommendations for new and casual readers. What about you? Are there books that you love to recommend to new and casual readers? Please share them in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.